Hello gamers, this is Sai and welcome back to Which Way Games. Now, how do you feel when holding a Nintendo controller?
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Now are you ready to harness the power of Nintendo? And with that being said, let's get on with the video. Now, do you remember the very first time you ever played a video game? That moment of sitting in front of the screen, looking back at your reflection, waiting for the adventure to begin.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Maybe your first time was an Atari with Pac-Man, or on PC with the original Doom, or in the arcade with the classic Outrun. Now, the hundreds and thousands of games that have come and gone over the years, my first game was the original Legend of Zelda. But what about the console that it found itself on?
Indeed.
Of course, I'm talking about the Nintendo Entertainment System, a small grey box of fun that changed the world of gaming into what it is today. But to appreciate this classic console, we have to go back to where it all started. In the late 70s, the world of gaming was awash with video game consoles, such as the ColecoVision, the Magnavox Odyssey, and the infamous Atari 2600.
It's the 2600 from Atari.
Each of these were trying to outdo one another and fighting for that #1 spot in front of the TV. However, not everything was as simple as that. Due to a wave of poor quality games, this left consumers wary of purchasing any new titles, as well as video game consoles. This lack of interest caused ripples through the world of gaming, and thus the video game crash of '83 happened. But luckily emerging from the rubble was Nintendo, and in their hands was a console grey in colour, and emblazoned upon it in red were the words Nintendo Entertainment System.
Nice.
The release of the NES was relatively quiet, but over time, Nintendo's grey box of fun reignited that passion for video games.
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
Gamers were now heading over to video game stores to purchase the NES, and with games such as Excite Bike, Ice Climber, and of course Super Mario, the Nintendo Entertainment System began its road to success. Now, Nintendo have always been innovative when it comes to gaming, and the NES had plenty of add-ons such as the Power Pad, the NES Advantage, and of course the legendary Zapper. Games such as Hogan's Alien Wild Gunman took full advantage of the Zapper, as well as the infamous Duck Hunt, and I can guarantee that most gamers tried their best to shoot the dog. The popularity surrounding the NES soon started to speed up, and it was in 1987 that some of the greatest games for the console found themselves being released. The 8-bit era of gaming was going from strength to strength, and with each release, there was something new for gamers to enjoy. The likes of Punch-Out! Allowed for a shot at the heavyweight title. There was that fight for survival against Mother Brain in the fantastic Metroid. And finally, an adventure to save Hyrule would be in the hands of a child. As I mentioned earlier, The Legend of Zelda was the very first game that I ever played. And whenever I play this fantastic game, it takes me back to that point in the 80s where my journey to the world of gaming began. That eventually led me to being introduced to the world's fastest hedgehog.
Obsessed much.
And speaking of the blue blur, Sega would eventually release the Sega Master System, and as endearing as this console was, it couldn't quite compete with the sheer dominance that the NES had over the world of gaming. As the 80s were coming to a close, Nintendo knew that technology was beginning to progress, and that they too would have to move with the times. And while they worked behind the scenes to the success of the NES, a final wave of games would start to be released from Nintendo's great box of fun. Some of these games pushed the NES beyond its limits, but introduced gaming icons such as Wario, Kirby and the lovable Yoshi. But one of the biggest games for the NES just happens to be Super Mario Bros. 3, which gamers first got a glimpse of in the film called The Wizard.
Awesome.
Super Mario's final adventure on the NES was filled to the brim with new exciting levels, different worlds, and plenty of challenges to keep gamers on their toes. And with other games impressing gamers, the sun soon began to set on the NES. The Nintendo Entertainment System has such a massive impact on the world of gaming that several decades later, the love for the NES is still growing strong, with a whole new wave of gamers learning what it means to play with power.
Feel that, buddy? Huh? Huh? Huh?
Overall, the NES has gone down in history as one of the most important gaming consoles of all time. And without the small grey box of fun, the world of gaming may have turned out entirely different. But luckily fate had intervened and brought the NES into existence, changing the world for the better. Hopefully over time, future generations will take a look to the past, to a time where things were much simpler and where the NES dominated the world of gaming. And thanks to the NES, gamers of all ages from across the world have come together and shared their own experiences when first playing this beloved console from Nintendo. Either way, I'll always be thankful to the NES and the very first title that set me on the path of gaming. And very much like The Legend of Zelda, I look forward to see where the adventure takes me next. Anyway, come back next time where the Lilac system is under threat and only Fox and his team can save the day. Thank you so much for watching and see you next game.